Minister Mark Carney's list of nation-building projects has been released. It includes a liquefied natural gas or LNG expansion project, and here on the East Coast, a major wind energy project.
They recognize that Nova Scotia can contribute to the goal of making Canada an energy superpower with our wind project. The offshore wind potential we have is so incredible.
It was announced as a nation-building moment. Prime Minister Mark Carney placed the Wind West offshore wind project on Canada's list of projects of national interest, and Nova Scotia Premier Tim Houston called it a big day for the province and for the country. The scale is unlike anything Canada has attempted in clean energy before. The first phase alone is planned at 5,000 megawatts, generating about 24 terawatt-hours of electricity each year. The full offshore potential is far greater, reaching 40 to 60 gigawatts, while Nova Scotia itself only consumes 2 to 3. That means the province is looking at a resource that could power multiple provinces or entire regions of the United States. At its core, Wind West is not just another renewable project. It is being sold as a pillar of Canada's ambition to become an energy superpower. For Nova Scotia, it is the chance to anchor new industries, from ports to manufacturing, while showing that the Atlantic coast can deliver the same scale of energy development long associated with Western oil and gas. Domestically, the benefits are clear. The project is expected to attract tens of billions of Canadian dollars in private investment and create thousands of jobs during construction and operation. From engineers to tradespeople, the opportunities cut across the economy. Nova Scotia's offshore wind speeds are about 10% stronger than those in the North Sea, giving the province a natural advantage. Harnessing this potential strengthens Canada's energy security and builds the foundation for new exports, from electricity to green hydrogen. Most importantly, production will far exceed local demand, ensuring that surplus energy becomes an instrument of national leverage.
Produce over 40, 50, 60 gigawatts of clean green energy offshore in Nova Scotia, and we only use 2 to 3. So when you produce that much, you need to have a market for the rest. So that means, you need to be able to transmit it and sell it to other markets, maybe in Quebec or Ontario or beyond.
Nova Scotia consumes only a fraction of the energy Wind West could deliver. Even after domestic needs are met, more than 90% of the output could be directed outward. Transmission is already part of the plan. The New England Clean Energy Connect line, a 1,200-megawatt high-voltage link from Quebec to Maine, is expected to enter service by late 2025. New Brunswick and Nova Scotia utilities are also preparing a new 345-kilovolt connection to move power south. The United States is the natural buyer. ISO New England data shows the region has been a net importer of electricity for years, with flows from Quebec and New Brunswick providing a buffer when local plants shut down or when natural gas prices spike. Coal units are being retired, gas remains volatile, and demand for low-carbon supply is rising. In this environment, offshore wind from Atlantic Canada is not a luxury. It is a direct complement to hydro imports from Quebec, filling gaps and providing stability to a system that cannot generate enough power within its own borders. This is where U.S. politics collide with energy reality. President Donald Trump has imposed global tariffs between 10 and 50% and threatened a 100% tariff on imported semiconductors. Canada has been a central target, facing high duties on steel, aluminum, and softwood lumber. Yet the same United States that pressures Canada on trade is also short of power. Dominion Energy projects that regional electricity demand could double within 15 years, driven by artificial intelligence and data centers. Wholesale prices in New England are already climbing as supply struggles to keep pace. That is why Canadian electricity is not optional. It is the stabilizer that keeps American grids reliable. Wind West will expand that role. Canada is positioned to deliver the clean power the U.S. economy requires at the very moment when tariffs are supposed to reduce Canadian influence. Policies designed to pressure Canada may backfire, because Washington cannot easily replace the energy lifeline that flows across the border. For Canada, Wind West is both a domestic achievement and an international bargaining chip. For the United States, it is a reminder that trade disputes cannot erase geography or the physics of energy supply. In the years ahead, the turbines rising off Nova Scotia's coast may prove to be more than just a symbol of green ambition. They may be the reason America cannot fully escape its dependence on Canadian energy.
Canada has a lot of cards. We have a lot of resources and a lot of trading opportunities that the Americans are very interested in.
While the Prime Minister said before leaving he wants to deepen connections with our allies here in Europe.
The trade clash between Washington and Ottawa has been unfolding for months. In February, after the White House launched emergency tariffs, Canada hit back with broad countermeasures on a wide range of U.S. goods. Earlier this month, President Donald Trump raised tariffs on Canadian non-CUSMA goods to 35%. Instead of escalating further, Ottawa made a calculated shift. Starting September 1st, counter tariffs will be removed on CUSMA-compliant goods, while steel, aluminum, and autos remain protected. This move is not retreat, it is a reset, aligning Canada with the trade rules while keeping pressure on the sectors where its leverage is strongest. Trade Minister Dominic LeBlanc called it proof that Canada still has many cards in hand. Electricity may seem invisible, but the numbers tell the story. In 2024, Canada exported nearly 35.7 terawatt-hours of electricity to the United States, worth about 3.1 billion Canadian dollars, according to the Canada Energy Regulator. Imports from the U.S. in the same year were smaller, about 20.9 terawatt-hours. That made Canada a clear net supplier of power across the border. Those flows are not just about dollars. They power close to 1 million American homes, concentrated in northern states where Canadian hydro is often the cheapest and cleanest option. And this comes at a time when U.S. electricity demand is projected to soar. Dominion Energy, which manages part of the grid in the Mid-Atlantic, has forecast that power demand could double over the next 15 years, largely because of data centers and artificial intelligence infrastructure. In this context, the stability of cross-border electricity links becomes even more critical. Electricity is not like oil that can be stored in barrels. It must be transmitted in real time. That means American utilities depend on Canadian reliability every single day. No tariff can change that physics. For Trump, tariffs are a tool of pressure, but in the realm of electricity, Canada holds the steady hand on the switch.
Meeting the German Chancellor is just one of a number of sit-downs planned between Prime Minister Mark Carney and leaders in Germany, Poland, and Latvia. As the trade war with the United States continues, Carney has been focused on diversifying trade, especially with Europe.
Alongside power lines, there is another sector where Canada's leverage runs deep: critical minerals. Canada supplied about 27% of U.S. uranium imports in 2023, based on U.S. Energy Information Administration data. At the same time, the U.S. cut off imports from Russia, making Canadian uranium even more indispensable for American nuclear power plants. The story does not stop at uranium. Canada is also a major producer of nickel, cobalt, and potash, all essential for electric vehicles, batteries, and agriculture. For Washington, the concern is clear. Much of the world's processing of these minerals remains in China, and reducing that dependency has been a bipartisan priority. Canada's reserves, developed under stable political conditions, are a rare alternative. Prime Minister Mark Carney's trip to Europe this week carried this message across the Atlantic. Meetings with German and Polish leaders, along with major CEOs, focused heavily on energy and minerals. Carney's pitch was straightforward. Canada is not only North America's secure supplier, it can also be Europe's. If Ottawa succeeds in building those ties, Washington risks losing the comfort of being Canada's primary customer. Trump's tariffs were meant to corner Canada, but they may end up accelerating Canada's diversification. Trump's tariffs were designed to tighten the screws, but Canada has turned them into an opportunity. By easing pressure on goods that follow CUSMA rules, Ottawa has shown fairness while keeping firm on the sectors where U.S. dependence runs deep. Electricity and minerals cannot be swapped overnight, and they give Canada a quiet but powerful hand. At the same time, Prime Minister Carney is building trade bridges with Europe, reminding Washington that Canada has options. The outcome is clear. Tariffs have not weakened Ottawa. They have highlighted strengths that Trump cannot undercut, leaving Canada better prepared for the talks ahead.
If you took away tariffs, we could end up being a third world country. We're leading because of tariffs.
President Trump has tied his economic vision to tariffs. He recently warned that without them, the United States could slip into becoming a third world country. That message came just days after a federal appeals court ruled that much of his program, built on emergency powers, was unlawful. The administration is appealing, but the stakes are high.
And those sweeping tariffs have collected so far $210 billion. Now, if this appeal by the administration does not ultimately stand and the administration has to cease collecting tariffs on October 14th or has to pay back those tariffs, that gets a bit complicated.
If the Supreme Court does not side with the White House, the government may have to refund more than $200 billion already collected from American importers and retailers. Canada is watching closely. Prime Minister Mark Carney reminded Canadians that 85% of trade with the United States remains tariff-free under the current agreement. He described this as the best deal in the world, while noting sensitive sectors such as steel, aluminum, forestry, autos, and copper that need attention. The contrast is clear. Trump frames tariffs as a shield against collapse, while Canada emphasizes stability and preparation.
Even before the court ruling, stress was visible in the American economy. The July job openings and labor turnover survey from the Bureau of Labor Statistics showed 7.18 million jobs available against 7.2 million people seeking work. For the first time in years, job seekers outnumbered open positions. The same month's employment report revealed only 73,000 jobs created nationwide, a sharp slowdown. Industries felt the pressure unevenly. Healthcare and social assistance lost 181,000 job openings in July. Retail trade dropped by 110,000. Construction, manufacturing, and wholesale trade saw modest gains. These shifts highlight how Americans are finding it harder to secure steady work, just as tariffs raise costs for businesses. The uncertainty over whether tariffs will survive in court adds another layer of strain.
I last spoke to the president Monday evening. We spoke at length on a wide range of issues, including on trade, but geopolitical, other issues, labor issues, etc. It was a good conversation.
Against this backdrop, under Carney's leadership, Canada is strengthening key industries at home and preparing to expand its trade relationships beyond the U.S., while still keeping most cross-border commerce stable and tariff-free. Mark Carney has emphasized that the foundation of North American trade remains intact. By pointing to the 85% of commerce that flows tariff-free, he sends a message of reassurance to both Canadian industries and American partners. He acknowledges the trouble spots openly. Steel, aluminum, autos, and pharmaceuticals are under pressure from Washington's tariff focus. But rather than react with fiery rhetoric, his government is preparing for the scheduled review of the Canada-United States-Mexico agreement next year. Carney also revealed that he held a lengthy conversation with President Trump on the 1st of September, covering trade as well as geopolitical and labor issues. At the same time, Canada's top civil servant was in Washington meeting with American counterparts. This careful but active diplomacy underlines a key difference. Where Trump leans on drama and constant warnings, Canada relies on quiet engagement and strategic groundwork. The signal to Canadians is that their country is not powerless in the face of tariffs, but has tools, alliances, and preparation on its side.
The clash of approaches could not be clearer. Trump's gamble is to hold up tariffs as the shield for American prosperity, even as courts challenge their legality, and labor data shows the strain. Canada, meanwhile, practices strategic patience. By emphasizing long-term stability, preparing for the CUSMA review, and keeping diplomatic channels open, Ottawa positions itself as the responsible partner in North America. The months ahead will test which strategy prevails. If tariffs are struck down or forced to be repaid, Trump's economic cornerstone could crack.
If they survive, costs will still weigh heavily on U.S. businesses and consumers. Either way, Canada shows that it is ready, not just reacting. That steadiness may ultimately prove to be the stronger force in shaping the future of continental trade.